The rain had fallen hard on the colony world of Vera, a gray planet where the winds never seemed to rest. In the small valley near the human outpost, a group of alien refugees struggled to survive. Their shelters were nothing but broken metal, sheets and torn cloth. Their fires had long died out, and their children cried in hunger. Among them was a tall alien mother. Her skin pale silver with faint blue lines glowing faintly under her arms. She had two small children who clung to her side. Their eyes were wide, their bodies weak, and their voices soft as they begged for something to eat. She tried to calm them, but there was nothing left to give. The colony guards passed by sometimes. They laughed when they saw the starving aliens, saying they should return to their own ruined lands. No one offered help. No one cared. Not until one human man began to appear. He was called Daniel, a simple worker from the outpost. He had no rank, no power, and no wealth. But each day, when the colony bell rang to mark the evening, he came down the rocky path, carrying food in his hands. Sometimes it was bread, sometimes rice, sometimes pieces of dried meat wrapped in cloth. He never spoke much. He simply placed the food down before the alien mother and her children, gave them a small nod, and turned away. At first, the mother thought it was a trick. Humans were known for cruelty in her people's stories, yet hunger forced her to accept. Her children devoured the food, their small hands shaking as they ate. Her heart ached with both relief and confusion. Why would a human do this when others only mocked? Day after day, Daniel came back. His clothes grew dirtier, his boots more worn. But still he never stopped. The guards jeered at him, calling him a fool for wasting food on aliens. But he ignored them, his eyes always focused on the little ones. Making sure they had enough to eat, the alien mother watched him closely. She saw how he never asked for thanks, never demanded anything. His face was always calm, though tired. She wondered what kind of man he was. What pain or secret drove him to keep coming? One night, when the storm winds were howling and most of the camp had hidden inside, Daniel arrived late. His shoulders were wet from the rain, and in his arms was a bundle wrapped in cloth. Inside were small cooked potatoes, hot and steaming. The smell filled the cold air. The children's eyes lit up, and they rushed to him. Their laughter echoed for the first time in weeks. The mother stepped forward, her voice trembling. "Why, human? Why do you do this?" Daniel paused, water dripping from his hair. For a moment, he looked like he might walk away without answering. But then he spoke softly, "Because no one else will." The words struck her heart. He said them not with pride, not with anger, but with a simple truth. He helped because it was right. She had never met a human like that before. From that night, she began to wait for him. She cleaned a place for him to sit when he came. She saved small scraps to return, though he refused them gently, and each time he left, her children asked when he would return. Their hope began to grow like a small flame in the cold. But not everyone was pleased. The guards whispered. The other humans at the outpost began to notice his absence during meals. Rumors spread. Some said he was weak. Some said he was planning something with the aliens. Some even warned that he would be punished. The mother feared this. She did not want his kindness to bring him harm. Yet she also knew the truth: without him, her children would die. She prayed in silence that he would keep coming, and he did. Every day, no matter the weather, no matter the risk, he never stopped bringing food. And with each passing day, something unseen grew between them. A bond not spoken, but felt in every glance, every quiet moment, every piece of bread shared under the dark alien sky. The children began to call him Uncle Daniel. They laughed when he brought sweet fruits. They sang when he told them short human stories by the fire. Their voices grew stronger and their eyes brighter. The mother felt warmth again, a warmth she thought was gone forever, but deep inside, she feared the future. She feared what would happen when the food ran out, or when the humans ordered him to stop. She feared what price he might one day have to pay for his kindness. And yet, she could not deny it anymore. Each time he came, each time his eyes met. Hers in silence, her heart beat faster. The thought came to her mind, a dangerous thought, but one that would not leave. What if this human was not just a stranger with food? What if he was meant for something more? The storm winds blew across the valley that night, carrying with them both fear and hope. And the mother held her children close, whispering a quiet truth to herself, "He will come back tomorrow." The days grew longer, and Daniel never failed to appear, each time he came with food. The alien mother's heart softened a little more. She had once believed that humans were cold creatures, ruled only by greed and power. But this man was different. He carried no weapons, wore no armor, and yet his presence made her feel safe. Her children had grown stronger now. Their cheeks were less hollow, their steps less weak. They began to smile, to laugh, and to chase one another among the broken shelters. Each laugh echoed across the valley like a defiance against hunger and despair. And each time Daniel heard it, a small smile touched his lips. Still, danger lingered in the shadows. The colony guards did not like what they saw. To them, Daniel was wasting supplies, food that belonged to humans, food that should never be given to aliens. One evening, as he carried a basket filled with bread, 2 guards stepped into his path. "Where are you going with that?" one of them sneered. His uniform carried the mark of rank, and his hand rested on the handle of his shock baton. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "It's my own share," he said calmly. "I'll do what I want with it." The second guard laughed. "Feeding rats, that's what you're doing? Those things should starve. Not one of them is worth the food you're throwing away." Daniel clenched his jaw. He wanted to shout, to fight, but he knew that would only make things worse. So he walked past them, ignoring their words. The guards exchanged dark looks, whispering as he vanished down the path toward the valley. When he arrived, the alien children ran to him, their voices high with joy. "Uncle Daniel! Uncle Daniel!" they cried. His heart eased as he watched them take the bread, tearing it apart with bright eyes. The mother looked at him, her lips trembling. "They will notice. They will try to stop you." He met her gaze, steady and firm. "Let them try." Her chest tightened. She had seen warriors before, men who fought with swords and guns, yet this human, who carried only food and kindness, seemed braver than them. All that night, after the children slept, Daniel stayed a little longer by the fire. The mother finally dared to ask, "Why do you care for us? You could turn away like the others. No one would blame you." Daniel's face was lit by the flickering flames. His eyes looked distant, as if remembering another place. "Because once, I was hungry too," he whispered. "I know what it feels like. I swore if I ever had enough, I would never let another soul suffer if I could help it." Her heart shook. She understood his words not as pity, but as a truth born from pain. She wanted to thank him, but no words came, only silence, filled with the warmth of firelight and the sound of children breathing peacefully. But peace never lasted. The very next morning, the guards reported him to the colony commander. A stern man who cared little for kindness. He believed humans should stand above all others when he heard of Daniel's actions. "His face grew dark. If he continues," the commander said, "he will be punished. Food is for humans, not for weak creatures who lost their wars." Rumors spread quickly. The other humans in the colony began to whisper. Some thought Daniel was a fool. Others thought he was a traitor. Only a few admired his courage. But none dared to stand beside him. One evening, Daniel came with less food than usual. His hands carried only a small sack of roots. The children still cheered. But the mother noticed the sadness in his eyes. "They are watching you," she said softly. If they punish you, you will not be able to come again." Daniel shook his head. "Then let them watch. I will not stop." The words filled her with both hope and fear. She wanted him safe, but she also wanted her children alive. Could both be possible, or would kindness destroy him? That night, the storm winds returned. The shelters shook, and rain hammered against the ground. Daniel stayed longer than usual, helping to repair broken walls and cover leaks. His hands worked with quiet strength, and for the first time, the mother felt a strange thought rising within her. What would it be like if he never left? She pushed the thought away quickly. It was dangerous. Humans and her people were not meant to mix. Their worlds were too different. Yet each time she looked at him, she felt the thought return. Stronger. When Daniel finally left that night, she stood in the rain watching him disappear into the darkness. Her chest heavy with worry, she whispered to herself, "Do not stop, Daniel. Please do not stop." Far away, in the colony outpost, the commander was already planning. He would not allow a single man to shame the humans by showing weakness. He would act soon, and his punishment would be harsh. But Daniel did not know this yet. He only knew that tomorrow, as always, he would walk the path with food in his hands. The next morning came with a heavy silence in the colony outpost. Daniel noticed the stairs as he walked through the camp. Some humans whispered behind his back. Others shook their heads, but Daniel kept his eyes forward. Carrying a small bag of dried fruit and bread, he was halfway down the path to the valley when he heard a sharp voice. "Daniel." The sound stopped him cold. Standing near the command tent was the colony commander. A tall man with gray hair and a scar across his cheek. His uniform was spotless, his boots polished, his eyes carried no kindness, only cold authority. "Come here," the commander ordered. Daniel obeyed, standing straight as the man's gaze pierced him. Around them, soldiers and workers paused to watch, waiting to see what would happen. "You have been feeding them," the commander said slowly, "every day. You sneak food away from your people and give it to them? Is this true?" Daniel answered. Without hesitation, "Yes." Gasps came from the soldiers nearby. They had expected him to deny it, to make excuses, but Daniel's voice was calm, steady, unashamed. The commander's eyes narrowed. "Do you know what you are doing? You are giving away human supplies to the same creatures who once fought against us. They are weak, they are broken, they do not deserve it." "They are hungry," Daniel said, his voice firm, "and hunger does not care about sides. They have children, they need food." The commander's face darkened. He stepped closer, his voice low. "This is your only warning, Daniel. Stop feeding them, or you will face punishment. Do you understand?" Daniel held his ground. He wanted to answer, to say he would not stop. But he also knew that saying it now would only bring chains, so he simply nodded, and the commander waved him away. That evening, Daniel still walked down the rocky path. His hands carried food, smaller than before, but still enough for the children. When they saw him, they shouted with joy, running into his arms. For a moment, all the warnings and threats vanished, replaced only by their laughter. But the alien mother saw the shadow in his eyes. "They spoke to you, didn't they?" she whispered when the children were busy eating. "Yes," Daniel said quietly. "The commander warned me. He told me to stop." Her heart sank. Fear tightened her chest. "Then you must stop. If they punish you, who will bring food then? You cannot risk yourself for us." Daniel looked at her, his voice steady. "I already decided long ago. If helping the hungry is a crime, then let them call me guilty." Her throat ached at his words. She wanted to argue, but her heart betrayed her. She did not want him to stop. She could not bear the thought of him leaving forever. Still, she feared what humans would do to him. That night, Daniel stayed longer than usual. He told the children, A story about Earth, about green fields and rivers that never ran dry. Their eyes widened with wonder, their laughter filling the night for the first time. The mother looked at Daniel not as a stranger, but as something more. She wondered if he could be part of her life, part of her children's future. But danger was closing in, back at the colony. The guards who hated Daniel had begun to plot. They wanted to catch him in the act, to show the commander his disobedience. The next day, 3 of them followed him quietly, hiding in the shadows as he carried another basket down the path. When Daniel reached the valley, he set the food down before the children as always. He laughed as they hugged him. He smiled when they called his name. The mother stood nearby, her heart glowing with both hope and fear. But then a harsh voice rang out. "There, I told you." The guards stepped into the open, their faces cruel with triumph. They raised their shock batons, pointing at Daniel. "Caught you feeding rats again." The children screamed and hid behind their mother. Daniel stood tall, his jaw clenched. "They're just children," he said firmly. "You don't need to do this." The guards laughed. "Orders are orders. You're coming with us." Traitor, the alien mother's heart raced. She wanted to protect him. But what could she do? She was weak, unarmed, and her children clung to her in fear. Daniel stepped forward, putting himself between the guards and the aliens, his voice steady. "If you want to take me, then take me. But leave them alone." For a moment, the guards hesitated. They had expected him to run or to beg. But his calm defiance unsettled them. Still, they grabbed him roughly. Binding his wrists with metal cuffs, the children cried, reaching out for him. The mother's voice cracked as she called his name. Daniel looked back one last time. His eyes met hers. And though no words passed between them, the message was clear. "Do not give up hope." Then the guards dragged him away, disappearing into the stormy night. The valley fell silent. The children sobbed into their mother's arms, and she held them close. Her heart broke with every tear. She whispered to herself, "He will come back. He must come back." But deep inside, fear gnawed at her soul, far away in the commander's tent. Daniel was thrown to the ground. The commander looked down at him with cold eyes. "You chose to disobey. Now you will learn what it costs to care for them." And in that moment, the war between kindness and cruelty had truly begun. Daniel's wrists burned as the guards shoved him deeper into the commander's tent. The cold metal cuffs cut into his skin. His boots dragged across the rough floor. Soldiers stood around the edges, watching with curiosity and cruel delight. The commander rose from his seat. His shadow stretched across the tent as he walked toward Daniel. His eyes were sharp and merciless. "You were warned," he said, his voice low. "And yet you chose to defy me." Daniel stayed silent, his chest rose and fell steadily. He would not beg. He would not explain. The truth was simple, and no words could change it. The commander circled him like a predator. "Do you know what your weakness causes? When you feed them, you give them hope, and hope is dangerous. Hope makes them believe they are equal to us. Do you want another war? Do you want more blood spilled? They are starving." Daniel said quietly, his voice calm but firm. "Children don't cause wars. Hunger doesn't care who won or lost." The commander's eyes flashed with anger, with a sharp motion of his hand. The guards struck Daniel across the back with their batons. The crack echoed in the tent. Daniel fell to one knee but did not cry out. His teeth clenched, his eyes fixed forward. "You will stop," the commander said, "or you will rot in chains." But Daniel only lifted his head slowly, his face pale, his jaw set. "I will never stop." The tent fell silent. Even the guards hesitated at his words. The commander's lips curled into a cold smile. "Then you will be made an example." That night, Daniel was locked inside a small holding cell near the colony walls. The air was damp, the floor hard. He sat in silence, his back aching, but in his mind he saw the children's faces, heard their laughter. He told himself he would not regret it. In the valley, the alien mother held her children close. They wept for Daniel, calling his name again and again. Her heart ached as if a piece of her had been torn away. She whispered promises to them. He will return. He must return. But her own voice trembled with doubt. She could not sleep. The image of him being dragged away haunted her. She thought of his words, his quiet strength. She thought of how he had stood before the guards without fear. And for the first time, she realized how much he had come to mean to her. At dawn, she rose quietly, her children still sleeping. She walked to the edge of the valley, her eyes fixed on the human outpost, far away. She knew she was powerless. She had no weapons, no allies. Yet something burned inside her heart. She could not simply wait. Meanwhile, inside the colony, Daniel's arrest had become the talk of the day. Some humans whispered in disapproval, but none dared to speak openly. A few workers admired his courage, but turned away when the guards looked foremost. Fear was stronger than conscience. The commander visited Daniel's cell in the afternoon, his arms folded behind his back, his voice dripping with cold satisfaction. You see, Daniel, no one is coming for you. You are alone. They will forget you, and soon. The aliens you protect will starve anyway. Daniel lifted his head, his eyes steady. You're wrong. He said, they won't forget. Kindness never disappears. It grows. The commander scoffed. But a flicker of unease crossed his face. He turned sharply and left. Back in the valley, the mother tried to keep her children calm. She saw the light fading from their eyes again. They refused food, asking instead for Daniel. She knew she had to act, but how? Her people were broken, scattered, too afraid to rise. Yet her thoughts returned again and again to Daniel's words. Do not give up hope. That night, when the stars shone faintly through the storm clouds, she gathered the other alien refugees. Her voice shook at first, but grew stronger as she spoke. He gave us food when no one else did. He stood before their weapons to protect us, and now they punish him. If we stay silent, we are already dead. But if we act together, perhaps we can save him. The others murmured in fear. Some shook their heads, but a few lifted their eyes. For the first time in years, there was something in their voices besides despair. Meanwhile, Daniel sat in the dark cell, his body sore, his strength waning. He thought of the alien mother's eyes, the way they had held both fear and gratitude. He thought of her children calling him Uncle Daniel, and he whispered to himself, I will survive. I will return to them. The guards outside laughed, thinking his silence meant defeat, but inside, his resolve only grew stronger. By the time the moon rose high, 2 paths had been set, one in the valley, where a desperate mother began to rally her people, and one in the colony, where a human in chains refused to break. Both paths were moving toward a storm that would decide whether kindness could truly stand against cruelty. The morning sun broke through the storm clouds, casting long shadows across the colony walls. Daniel sat against the cold stone of his cell, his hands aching from the tight cuffs. His back still carried bruises from the batons, but his spirit refused to bend. Outside, the guards laughed as they passed, tossing scraps of food into the mud as if to mock him. But Daniel did not look at them. He closed his eyes and thought of the alien children's laughter, the way their faces lit up when he brought food. He thought of the mother's quiet strength, her eyes filled with both fear and hope. These memories gave him strength in the valley. The alien mother gathered the small group of refugees again. Fear weighed heavy on them, yet her words carried a fire that had not been heard in years. He gave to us when no one else did, she said firmly. He risked himself for our children. We cannot leave him to suffer alone. If he is punished, then hope dies with him. Some shook their heads, too afraid of human weapons. But others nodded slowly. Their eyes glimmered with something they had almost forgotten: courage. They were weak, starving, but together they could still act. The children clung to her arms, their voices small but determined. "We want Uncle Daniel back," they said. She kissed their foreheads and whispered, "We will bring him back." Meanwhile, in the commander's tent, a meeting was called. The guards reported Daniel's stubbornness, how he refused to break. The commander slammed his fist on the table. Then he must be made an example before them all. He declared, "Tomorrow he will be punished in the square. Let every alien see what happens when a human betrays his own kind." The guards cheered cruelly, their eyes hungry for blood. They spoke of chains and whips, of breaking the man until no hope remained. But one soldier did not cheer. He stood at the back of the tent, his fists clenched. He had seen Daniel's quiet strength, the way he never begged, and though he feared the commander, a seed of doubt had been planted in his heart that night. Daniel lay awake in the cell. He could hear the whispers of soldiers outside. He knew what awaited him the next day. Pain, humiliation, perhaps even death. Yet his heart remained calm, for he remembered the alien mother's eyes, the way she had looked at him that last night, as if she wanted him to stay forever. That thought gave him peace. In the valley, the refugees began to prepare in secret. They had little broken tools. Sticks, sharp stones, but they carried determination. The mother stood at the front, her voice firm. "We may not have weapons, but we have each other. We will not let him face them alone." The night was long, filled with fear and whispering. Winds. But for the first time in years, the valley was also filled with purpose. When morning came, drums echoed through the colony. Soldiers marched to the square, pulling Daniel from his cell. His wrists were bound, his body weak, but he walked with steady steps. Refusing to bow, the commander stood on a raised platform, his voice booming across the crowd. "This man is a traitor," he declared. He gave human food to worthless aliens. He shamed his own people, and today he will pay the price. The humans in the crowd muttered among themselves. Some cheered, but others stayed silent. Shame burned in a few faces, but fear kept there. Mouths shut, Daniel was forced to his knees. The guards lifted their batons, ready to strike. The commander's eyes glittered with cruel satisfaction. But then, from the edge of the square, a sound rose, a cry that cut through the tension like a blade. Stop. Heads turned. The alien mother stood there, her children clinging to her sides. Behind her, the other refugees gathered. Their bodies thin, their faces pale, yet their eyes blazed with defiance. The crowd gasped. No alien had dared step into the colony square for years. Guards raised their weapons, but the mother did not move. Her voice rang out again, stronger this time. "He is not a traitor. He is a savior. He fed our children when none of you would. He gave hope when we had nothing. If you punish him, you punish us all." Daniel lifted his head, his eyes locking with hers. For a moment, the noise of the square vanished. It was only the two of them. Bound by something greater than fear, the commander snarled, "Silence, creature. You have no right to speak here." He motioned to the guards, "Drive them back." But the refugees did not move. They stepped closer, their weak bodies forming a wall around Daniel. Their hands carried stones, sticks, whatever they could find. Their voices rose in unison. "He is one of us." The square erupted into chaos. Some humans shouted in anger, others in shock. The guards hesitated, unsure if they should strike. The commander's face turned red with fury. Daniel felt his heart pound. He had feared for them, feared they would suffer because of him. But now he saw their courage, and it filled him with strength. He rose to his feet despite the chains. His voice rang out, Enough. This is not justice. This is cruelty. The crowd froze. For the first time, the truth stood clear before them. And in that moment, something shifted. A spark of resistance had been lit, one that no chains could hold. The square pulsed with tension. Soldiers gripped their batons. Humans whispered nervously. And the aliens stood firm in a fragile circle around Daniel. Their thin bodies shook, but their eyes blazed with courage. The commander's face twisted. With fury, "Step aside," he roared, "or you will all be crushed." But the alien mother lifted her chin, her children clinging to her sides. Her voice carried across the square. "No, we will not move. If you hurt him, you must hurt us." 2 gasps spread through the crowd. Never before had an alien mother spoken so boldly in the human colony. The commander's jaw clenched. His pride would not allow such defiance. "Caesar," he snapped. The guards surged forward, shoving through the circle of refugees. Their batons crackled with electricity. Children screamed. The refugees fought back with stones and sticks. But their blows were weak against armored men. Daniel's blood boiled. He strained against the chains, shouting, "Stop! Leave them alone!" His voice thundered across the square, but the guards ignored him. One struck a refugee across the face. Another tore a child from his mother's arms. The alien mother's heart raced. She clutched her children tightly, her voice breaking. "Run!" She whispered, but her legs would not move. Her body shook as the guards reached for her. And then something happened. A soldier at the edge of the crowd stepped forward, his face pale but his jaw firm. "Enough," he said. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the chaos. All eyes turned to him. He was the same young soldier who had watched Daniel's courage in silence before. "What did you say?" the commander hissed. "I said enough," the soldier repeated. "Louder now. This isn't justice. This is madness. He gave food to children." "Is that a crime worth killing for?" The square fell silent. Even the guards hesitated. Daniel stared at the soldier with disbelief and hope. For the first time, another human had spoken on his behalf. The commander's eyes burned with rage. "Arrest him too," he barked. But the young soldier did not flinch. He stood beside Daniel, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You are not alone anymore," he whispered. The refugees gasped. The alien mother's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, the balance of fear began to shift. The commander, however, would not yield. His pride was too deep, his authority too absolute. He drew his pistol, the metal glinting in the sun. "If kindness makes men traitors," he snarled, "then let the traitors die." He raised the weapon toward Daniel. The crowd screamed. Children cried. The refugees lunged forward, desperate to shield him. Daniel closed his eyes, ready for the end, but before the trigger could be pulled, a stone flew from the crowd. It struck the commander's hand. The pistol fell with a clatter. Shock rippled through the square. The alien mother stood tall, her hands trembling but her eyes fierce. "We will not bow to cruelty," she shouted. Her voice rang with power she never knew she had. The refugees roared in unison, throwing stones, swinging sticks, pushing back against the guards. The young soldier drew his own weapon and stood beside them. For the first time, humans and aliens fought on the same side. The commander staggered back, his face red with fury. "You will all pay for this," he screamed, but his words were drowned by the cries of defiance. The square had erupted into chaos. Daniel's chains rattled as he struggled. His heart pounded. He saw the mother fighting, shielding her children. He saw the young soldier standing firm, and he knew this was no longer about food. It was about freedom with a final heave. Daniel snapped the weakened link of his cuffs. Pain seared his wrists, but his hands were free. The crowd roared as he rose to his feet, towering above the guards. His voice thundered. No more. The guards faltered. Some retreating as the refugees surged forward, the commander's authority cracked. His controls slipping through his fingers. The alien mother rushed to Daniel's side, her children clutching his legs. Her voice shook. You are free, but Daniel shook his head. His eyes burned with determination. Not yet, he said. Not until they are free to. The young soldier nodded, his grip on his weapon tightening. Then we fight together. The square burned with energy. Hope had risen like a storm. Unstoppable. The refugees no longer looked like victims. Their voices rose higher. Their courage fed each other. The commander was forced back onto the platform. His guards faltered under the wave of defiance. For the first time, his voice trembled with fear. You fools, do you not see? Without order, there is nothing. But Daniel's voice rose above. His, steady and strong, without kindness, there is nothing. And the square erupted once more, not with fear, but with the first breath of rebellion. The square was alive with chaos. Guards swung their batons. Refugees threw stones, children cried, and humans watched in shock as order crumbled. For years, cruelty had ruled this colony, but now, for the first time, the oppressed stood tall. Daniel's chest heaved as he broke the last of his chains. His wrists were bloody, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. He stood beside the alien mother and the young soldier. Their backs to each other, facing the storm of soldiers that surrounded them. The commander screamed above the noise, his voice filled with rage. Crush them all, leave none standing. His pride demanded victory, but fear flickered in his eyes, for he had never seen such unity before. The guards surged forward again. But this time they met resistance. Refugees struck with fury, born from years of pain. Mothers fought with bare hands. Fathers swung broken tools like swords. Children screamed defiance instead of silence. And in the middle of it all stood Daniel, his fists striking like thunder. His voice rising above the chaos. Stand together. Do not yield. The young soldier fought at his side, his weapon flashing as he disarmed guard after guard. His loyalty no longer belonged to the commander, but to truth. The alien mother shielded her children while throwing stones with fierce strength. Her voice carried hope. We will not bow again. The square became a battlefield, but slowly the tide shifted. The guards, though armed and trained, began to falter. Fear spread among them as they faced people who no longer feared death. The commander's commands grew desperate, his voice cracking. Finally, Daniel charged through the chaos, his eyes fixed on the commander. The crowd parted as he leaped onto the platform, his chains still hanging from his wrists. He raised them high. Your cruelty ends today, he roared. The commander drew his pistol again, his hands shaking. You cannot lead them, he spat. You are just one man. Daniel's eyes burned. With fire, one man fed the hungry, he said, his voice carrying across the square. One man gave hope. One man showed kindness. And now, we are no longer one. We are many. The refugees roared. Their voices shook the ground itself. The humans watching workers, farmers, even some soldiers felt shame burning in their hearts. Some lowered their weapons, some stepped back, and in that moment, the commander realized he had already lost. He raised the pistol anyway, aiming for Daniel's chest, but before he could fire, the young soldier rushed forward. Knocking the weapon from his hands, it clattered to the ground, and the crowd surged onto the platform, surrounding the commander. Pressing him down, the battle was over. Cruelty had been defeated. Silence fell, broken only by the heavy breathing. Of the crowd, Daniel stood at the center, bloodied but unbroken. His eyes searched the square until they found Hertha, alien mother. She stood with her children, their faces streaked with tears but shining with pride. She looked at him as if he were not just a man, but a miracle. He walked to her slowly. His steps heavy when he stopped before her. His voice softened. "It's over. You are safe now." Her lips trembled. "Because of you," she whispered. "You gave us life when we had nothing." Daniel shook his head gently. "No, you gave me life too," he said. His eyes softened as he looked at her children. They reminded me why. Kindness matters. Why we cannot turn away. Her heart pounded. The children clung to his arms. Their voices bright. "Uncle Daniel." "Don't leave us." He bent down, wrapping them in his arms. For the first time, tears filled his eyes. He held them tightly, whispering, "I won't." Then he lifted his gaze to the mother. Her silver skin glowed faintly under the sunlight. Her eyes deep with both strength and vulnerability. He took a deep breath, his voice steady. "I never stopped bringing food because I could not stop caring." He paused, his heart in his throat. "Now I ask something greater. Stay with me." "Stay forever," the mother's breath caught. Her children looked up at her, their faces hopeful. For a moment, she could not speak. Then, slowly, she nodded, her eyes shining with tears. "Yes," she whispered, "I will stay forever." The crowd around them erupted with cheers. Humans and aliens alike lifted their voices, for in that moment, unity had been born. The young soldier stepped forward, his voice firm. "From this day, no child will starve here. No mother will beg for mercy. We will build something new, together." Daniel took the mother's hand in his. Her children hugged them both. The broken valley was no longer just a place of suffering, had become the birthplace of hope. The commander, bound and defeated, was dragged away, his cries lost in the noise of triumph. The chains of cruelty had been broken, replaced by the bonds of kindness, as the sun dipped low on the horizon. Daniel stood with the alien mother and her children, their hands entwined, their hearts uniting as one. And in that quiet moment, surrounded by cheers and laughter, Daniel whispered the words he had carried in his heart all along. "From today, you are not alone. You will never be alone again."